It is the 6th day before the Ides of September, during the consulship of Mutilus and Secundus. A Roman legionary trudges on with his comrades, struggling through the waterlogged tracks of an endless forest set far from home. Gale force winds and torrential rain send the trees into a billowing frenzy. Yet, he can't help but notice dark shadows lurking in the undergrowth, flanking both sides of the track. Are they wild beasts? Are they ghosts? Or are they something else? The ancient historian Tacitus once described Germania as a land of forbidding landscapes and unpleasant climate, a country that is thankless to till, and dismal to behold for anyone who is not born and bred there. For Rome, this land was seen as foreign and inhospitable, yet the Romans were no strangers to the Germanic people. Ever since the 2nd century BC, Rome had wrestled with several tribes over the volatile territories of the Rhine frontier. With the chaos of Roman civil war far behind him, Emperor Augustus reigned supreme over the most powerful empire Europe had ever seen. With his own domain secure, under the newfound Pax Romana, the emperor now began to target the barbarians that dwelled near Rome's frontiers. Augustus aimed to do what his predecessors could not, and take the fight to the Germans in full force, pushing beyond the Rhine River to bring new untamed lands under his control. Germania was another frontier to be pacified, another province to be absorbed into Pax Romana. Before we return to Rome's grueling campaign into the dark forests of Germania, let's consider what made Roman generals truly successful: preparation, tactics, and a mastery of diverse forces. The same level of strategy you'll need in Raid Shadow Legends, the tactical RPG that's sponsoring today's video. They're also offering bonuses for new players this month through my link, so stick around till the end to find out what you can claim. I personally love the level of customization that Raid offers, the strategic depth of the turn-based combat system, and the stunning animations that bring each battle to life. And here's the exciting part. Raid just dropped 5 brand new legendary champions inspired by Alice's adventures in Wonderland. My personal favorite is Alice the Wanderer, a powerful attack-type champion who excels in crowd control and dishing out serious damage, as well as the Cheshire Cat, Mad Hatter, Knave of Hearts, and the fearsome Queen of Hearts. Click my link in the description below or scan the QR code on screen to receive a starter pack featuring the epic champion Tagoar from the Orc faction. Plus, when you hit level 15, you'll unlock another pack with the epic champion Fayne. And there's more. New players who use promo code GETALICE will unlock the limited edition Alice the Wanderer. And whether you're new or returning player, don't forget to check out the additional promo codes in the description for even more in-game rewards. Join me in-game under the name The Armchair Historian, and be sure to join my clan, The Armchair Historians. See you on the battlefield. To complete Rome's vision, Augustus appointed Publius Quinctilius Varus as governor of Germania. Varus was a seasoned administrator. He had earned his reputation by imposing Roman law and crushing dissent as the governor of Syria. But Germania was no Syria. It was a land of deep forests, shifting alliances, and a people who despised foreign rule. This discontent was only made worse by Varus's insistence on imposing Roman law and taxation. He treated Germania as if they were already a Roman province, demanding tribute, enforcing legal codes, and ignoring the tribal structures that bound the people together. This centralized authority was an almost alien concept to the Germanic tribes, who were often bound by oaths and kinship rather than the rule of an imperial governor. While the Roman state extolled virtues of law, civic duty, and statecraft, the Germanic peoples were hunters, farmers, and warriors first. Across Gaul, Hispania, and the East, local elites had been drawn into Rome's embrace, with many being offered citizenship, wealth, and power in exchange for loyalty. But Germania was different. The Germanic tribes had no cities to Romanize, no kings to co-opt. Rome could tax them, station legions among them, even grant them Roman names, but it could not erase who they were. Yet even as Rome struggled to impose its will on Germania, several tribes had already been drawn into the empire's fold. Sons of noble families from several tribes were taken as hostages to be raised in Roman courts and legionary camps, molded into loyal auxiliaries who would one day serve their new masters. One such man was Arminius. Born a prince of the Cherusci tribe, Arminius was taken as a hostage in his youth and raised within Rome's ranks. He learned Latin, studied Roman tactics, earned his citizenship, and was even elevated into the equestrian order, a rare honor for a German. The Romans saw him as one of their own, a trusted leader who had distinguished himself in the Great Illyrian Revolt, and now commanded auxiliary forces in Germania. Arminius dined with Roman officers, rode alongside Varus, and spoke Latin fluently, an exemplary subject of Rome's civilizing mission. So great was their trust in Arminius, the Romans even allowed him the freedom to travel beyond the frontier to live with his kindred people. But deep within Arminius burned a loyalty, not to Rome, but to his people. He saw firsthand the arrogance of Varus, the oppression of the legions, and the anger of the tribes. And so, Arminius made a fateful decision. He would turn Rome's own tactics against them. As the empire tightened its grip on Germania, resentment spread. At the behest of the emperor, Varus made great efforts to reshape the region into a formal province, but it was Arminius who witnessed the effects of this governorship. For the Germans, these taxes were a humiliation, the laws an affront to their traditions, and the legions an occupying force in their own lands. Still, resentment alone was not enough. The Germanic tribes were divided, scattered across the forests and riverlands, bound by kinship but fractured by rivalry. Arminius knew that if they remained disunited, Rome would crush any resistance before it could gather in force. One by one, he reached out to the tribal chieftains, the Cherusci, the Chatti, the Bructeri, appealing to their growing anger against Roman rule. He spoke not as a Roman officer, but as one of them. The legions were vulnerable, he told them. The time to strike was now. Slowly, alliances formed, warriors gathered in the woods, and a plan began to take shape. Arminius knew that brute force alone could never bring down 3 legions. He needed Rome to destroy itself. Playing the loyal officer, he fed Varus false intelligence of a tribal uprising deep in the forests, warning that swift action was needed to prevent rebellion. He assured the governor that his own auxiliaries, German warriors in Roman armor, would guide the legions safely through the wilderness. Varus, trusting his officer completely, took the bait. Ignoring warnings from other commanders, he brought 3 legions, totaling nearly 17,000 men, off the Roman roads and into the dense, unfamiliar terrain of the Teutoburg Forest. The Romans were en route to Cheruscan territory, with Varus being convinced by Arminius to establish a summer camp there for their planned campaign. Arminius knew that the Roman baggage train would be their anchor, forcing the column into a sluggish crawl. To break them, he had to choose ground where the legions couldn't fight as one, where Rome's discipline would count for nothing. He found it near modern-day Calcresa, where the road west narrowed into a treacherous bottleneck. To the north, an expanse of swamp and marshland would force the Romans onto a narrow path. To the south, the Calcreser Berg loomed, its ridges offering the perfect position for ambushers. As the legions moved deeper into the forest, heavy rainfall left the ground beneath them turning to thick mud, their formations stretched thin by the narrow, winding paths. The dense canopy smothered the light, and the once orderly column became fragmented. It was here that Arminius made his move. Under the pretense of scouting ahead, he and his auxiliaries slipped away. Somewhere in the shadows, tens of thousands of Germanic warriors lay in wait. The signal had been given, the trap was set. The first attack came suddenly, without warning. A deafening war cry split the air as a storm of javelins rained down from the trees, striking Roman soldiers caught off guard. Shields splintered, men collapsed, and the legionary formations fell into chaos. Roman cohorts, stretched thin along the winding forest path, struggled to respond. From the undergrowth, Germanic warriors surged forward, howling, striking, disappearing back into the woods. Varus and his officers tried to rally the troops, but confusion spread like wildfire. Somewhere amidst the chaos, Varus himself came to the sickening realization that he had been betrayed. It was Arminius. Despite the warnings and accusations from other Romans, the man he had trusted and respected as a truly civilized barbarian had pulled the rug from under him. The situation was dire. Unlike most field armies on campaign, Varus had no ambush contingencies in place, leaving them completely off guard. The heavy rains coupled with the forest terrain was also heavily disorienting, as the Romans were trained for open and decisive battle, not the drawn-out and protracted strikes that they were now being subject to. Panic gripped the column as the relentless ambush continued over several days. The dense forest and narrow trails made Roman formations impossible. Legionaries were trained to fight as a disciplined wall of shields, and now they were being reduced to small, disparate clusters of defense. Rainwater turned the paths into a muddy quagmire, as wagons became stuck and cavalry was useless in the tangled undergrowth. Arminius's warriors hit and vanished, struck and retreated, harassing the exhausted Romans day and night. Officers fell, supplies abandoned, morale collapsed. There was no order, only survival. Varus saw no path forward, making a fateful decision. They would turn back. But the noose was already tightening. By the third day, the Roman army was broken. Thousands lay dead in the undergrowth, their bodies lost in the mud and roots of the forest. The survivors were starved and sleep-deprived and tried to stumble away from the encroaching Germans into an open clearing. But it was a fatal mistake. Arminius had forced them into a killing ground that lay before the Calcreaser barrack. Earthen barricades blocked their paths, and behind them, a wall of warriors emerged. A great slaughter began, with the Romans thrown into total disarray. Varus was unwilling to face capture, and decided to fall on his own sword. Some officers attempted to flee, but were either struck down by missiles or snatched up by German cavalry. Two of Varus's camp prefects, Chaonius and Lucius Edgius, were all that was left of the Roman leadership. Here, Edgius attempted a valiant but futile last stand with an ad hoc battle group of roughly 4,000 men. He ordered an assault in testudo formation against the entrenched Germans at Calcreaser barrack, where his men scaled their defenses, but the flexible wooden palisade absorbed repeated blows from thrown pila and hacking gladi, halting their advance. As Arminius warriors launched a devastating counterattack, the Roman line began to disintegrate. A wavering Chaonius chose an ill-fated surrender in the face of annihilation, but Edgius refused and led a final breakout attempt. The Germans surged forward, overwhelming the last pockets of resistance, and Edgius and his men were cut down fighting around their standard. After that, the battlefield fell silent, with nothing but corpses and exhausted yet victorious Germans remaining. Only a handful of scattered survivors escaped to carry the word of disaster back over the Rhine. Rome's greatest disaster was complete. 3 legions were completely annihilated, while their eagles were captured as war booty. It was the ultimate humiliation. For the first time in centuries, Rome had suffered not just a defeat, but a full-scale emergency. The 17th, 18th, and 19th legions ceased to exist. When news reached Emperor Augustus, he was said to wander his palace in despair, shouting, "Quinctilius Varus, give me back my legions." The Roman world was shaken. The Teutoburg Forest had become a graveyard and a warning of what lay beyond the Rhine. For years, the bones of fallen legionaries would litter the battlefield. Rome had learned a bitter lesson. Conquering Germania would come at a heavy price. But it was a price the emperor was willing to make. Augustus and his successor, Tiberius, ordered immediate military responses. Over the next few years, punitive expeditions crossed into Germania, aiming to restore Roman dominance and avenge the fallen. However, the events at Teutoburg would mark the limits of its empire, a border that would stand for centuries. For Arminius, the war was not over. He had defied an empire, outwitted Rome's finest generals, and altered the course of history. Yet his greatest challenge still lay ahead. With the forces of Rome held at bay, the Germans had no foreign enemy to unite against, and so began to turn on each other once again. For Arminius, his next struggle would be one against his own people. Huge thanks to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen to claim your free starter pack, which includes the Epic Champion Tagoar plus Epic Champion Fayne once you hit level 15. If you're a new player, don't forget to use the promo code GetAlice to unlock the exclusive legendary champion Alice the Wanderer, inspired by Alice's adventures in Wonderland. And whether you're just starting out or a seasoned player, there are 2 more promo codes packed with valuable in-game resources waiting for you. Check the description below for all the details and claim your rewards.